Data protection and privacy teams are under more pressure than ever with new laws, AI oversight, data breaches, and the constant expectation to do more with fewer resources.
That's why TrustArc built a modern privacy and data protection management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. It unifies your tools, automates the work that slows you down, and surfaces what matters most right when you need it.
From guided quick actions to our intelligent assistant, Ask Arc, you get credible, contextual answers backed by expert research, not generic AI guesses.
Finally, privacy that works the way privacy pros work.
Learn how TrustArc helps teams move faster with confidence at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.
You're listening to Serious Privacy, powered by TrustArc. Here are your hosts, Paul Breitbart, Ralph O'Brien, and Dr. Kay Royal.
People are like, can you do some outtakes for us? I'm like, oh, what we delete, y'all don't want to hear.
But this you will hear, because welcome to the Global Privacy Summit of the IAPP in Washington, D.C. This is day one, and we are recording live from the convention hall. My name is Paul Breitbart.
And I'm Kay Royal, and welcome to Serious Privacy.
And
welcome
Kay is
to
already
IAPP.
cracking up before we have even started.
I have not even had extra caffeine. I promise I'm avoiding it. However, I did pick up a TrustArc pair of socks with cookies on it.
Yes.
So I had cookies, and Paul brought me gluten-free stroopwafels. So
Is that your favorite conference food then?
Oh my God, that's
Let's
my favorite.
start with the unexpected question.
Let's do that. So, unexpected question, Paul. What is your favorite conference food? Even if it's just limited to what we've had here.
Oh, if it's limited to what we have had here, then probably the bread pudding would be
Least favorite?
No, the favorite
Favorite,
today, because
okay.
that was actually quite tasty, and I'm already happy we don't have boxes this year with dried out sandwiches that have been made a week ago.
Oh my God, right.
So it was actually pretty decent.
And for
Yeah,
me,
all in all, I would say the food at the
So
IAPP
far?
conference in Singapore,
best.
dim sum and Indian curries would be probably my most favorite conference food at all
I'm going to
times.
have to get over there and check it out myself at some point. We'll see. My favorite so far, because y'all know I'm limited to the gluten-free. So they've had quite a lot of gluten-free options, which is good. Not the bread pudding, of course.
No.
But today they had brisket and chicken and gluten-free cornbread, which I didn't eat. But I would say, what is my favorite? I'm just going to go simple. Since I've been here, the favorite was yogurt with fresh fruit in it.
Very good.
Yeah.
But that was not available today.
It was. They did.
Okay.
When we came out of the open session, they had tables with the yogurt and the fruit and everything on it. So that was good. And people dropping pans and everything.
So, open session.
Last
We
night
are
or this
on-
morning?
Well, last night we were not there, so
We
that's
were
very
not
hard
there.
for us to discuss.
I have not heard anybody raving about it.
I don't even recall what was on the agenda, to be honest.
I don't either. I forgot there was one.
But this morning's open session,
This morning, I really enjoyed the first guy, Lawrence
Lawrence
Lessig.
Lessig.
I enjoyed him. I enjoyed his presentation, did a keynote spot. And I think one of the things that I picked up out of his was he does not believe in empowerment and consent because we are forcing ourselves to live a lie because nobody actually reads them. Nobody understands it, except us, of course. Nobody reads them. Nobody understands them. And yet they're agreeing with them or whatever. And so he says that actually makes an entire lie out of everything that we're saying and doing.
Yeah, that's true. And he is a professor at Harvard
Yeah.
Law School. And he wrote 25 years ago.
In
a book-
1999?
In 1999, 26 years ago, he wrote a book about coding and what that would mean for the legal profession and how it influences society. He showed a very interesting matrix of how we as individuals are influenced by the law, by societal norms, by the industry, and how that has all changed over the past couple of years. Also making the point that actually the law is becoming less and less important,
Yeah.
and business practices are basically taking over what
Yeah.
is happening in society.
Oh,
who influences
absolutely.
what.
And he showed either some quotes from the books, but also some feedback from critics that he got at the time, highlighted a few of them. I think I only copied or took a picture of one, but it was interesting because the quote was, "Unlike actual law, internet software has no capacity to punish. It doesn't affect people who aren't online, and only a tiny minority of the world population is. And if you don't like the internet system, you can always flip off the modem."
Yeah. Well, 25 years ago, that was still a possibility, I guess. But right now, that is a lot harder.
Yeah.
Back then, it was indeed in the review. I think it was the New York Times review of his book at the time. They said, yeah, well, he is like a Cassandra predicting all hell to come down over all of us.
Yep.
Whereas that may not be reality. There is no evidence in the book to say that this would happen. Well, I think he had the foresight
he's proven, yeah.
as the actual Cassandra that indeed things have gone pretty wrong.
Yeah. So it was interesting. The people after that, there's Dan from Trujillo. Might cut that out.
So the second keynote was Hans-Peter Brandmo. He used to work for Google
Yes.
X and Everyday Robots. And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah.
He was talking about how we all see these images of robots doing backflips and doing human-like things.
Yeah.
But the company he worked for, Everyday Robots, was actually there to do robots doing everyday tasks. So like at a conference like
If
this,
it moves, it's a robot.
cleaning the tables at a conference and making sure that all the trash is in the right trash cans.
Yeah.
Cleaning the hallways and supporting with other office tasks, bringing coffee and all of that. Really the day-to-day things that humans in principle do not like to do.
Right.
And I thought it was really fun to see, also to hear some of his co-workers talk in a video saying how quickly they got accustomed to the fact that there were just robots roaming around their offices as regular co-workers.
Right. And the way it is. And the third speaker, Katie Kwan, actually was talking a similar line in robots, but hers focused on she is a professionally trained dancer and choreography. And
with a PhD in robotics.
Exactly, because she decided to change her trajectory and go towards robotics because she found it fascinating and was showing us images of the things that they're training the robots to do. And right now at was it Experium in San Francisco? I can't remember where she said it was, but they have robots on display interacting with people, and they want them to
Stanford
be
Law in any case.
Yeah.
Or Stanford University.
basically. Let's go there. And she showed a picture of one that they are building right now that's a giant hand, and they're training this robot hand how to interact with people friendly, how to make them feel welcome. And it's like, okay, so now we're building the Terminator. Okay.
Yeah, well, the Terminator was not
Okay,
that
it wasn't
friendly.
that bad.
But of course, this is all about showing what AI can do, right?
Right.
And how advanced AI is becoming, that it can also make sure that robots can train to move in certain ways. What I liked about Katie Kwan's presentations, and she also explained about how difficult it still is for robots to move in human-like ways.
Right.
And that is why the dancing is actually
dancing.
used as training. She explained that she used a full 8-hour workday dancing, and that was all with sensors so that the
Right.
robot could mirror it and learn from it
Right.
to have more human-like behavior, which I think is fascinating. At the
Oh,
same
utterly
time,
fascinating.
I had difficulties to understand where that fascination comes from and why it is
To delve
relevant
deep
for
in your
what-
psyche to
well, and
figure it
also
out.
why it is relevant for what we are doing and discussing here today. Of course, deep down, I see the relationship, but I think there are so many other legal topics and AI-related topics that may make, I don't know, have a closer relationship to what we are doing as a
Right.
community of privacy professionals.
Well,
I
and
think
I
it
just
was
went-
just a bit too far out of it's not the comfort zone, but what I would expect.
Right. Well, and it's forward looking, right? It's looking at technology and how's it impact. Can we learn from the past? Can we predict for the future? Not all of us are really good at predicting for the future. We can't even imagine what 10 years is going to be. What did I hear someone
We
say?
can't even predict the weather for a week from now. So
Right. The weather here, by the way, in DC is gorgeous this week. And it's pouring down rain back home. But it was interesting that I think it was the day before I was in the cybersecurity working session all day long, which was really good. They had speakers, they had an FTC section with Rebecca Slaughter and Travis LeBlanc, which of course, can only speak on certain topics because both of them are engaged in legal battles. But they had the FBI there, they had the state regulators there from Connecticut and Illinois and Indiana. So it was a really good topic for the day. It was really good. And one of them that I saw there is right now, everybody's worried about Gen AI and agentic AI, and which, by the way, is agent-based, essentially.
Yeah, but
And-
that's already a step beyond us doing our own research using AI. Then it's just training an AI to give you a daily update. And
Right.
You wake
to
up
go
in the
off
morning.
and do stuff,
Yeah, you wake up in the morning and you get a summary of everything that came in overnight.
which would be
with
cool, right?
With a prioritization of everything that you need to do.
Maybe that's something Paul and I will do one day. We'll program the bot to go out and tell us everything important that happened this past week in privacy, and we'll give y'all what the AI thinks is important.
Nah, there's no fun in that. I mean, then we can just tell Google to create a...
Use our voices and create a podcast, and
create
we
a
don't ever have to
podcast.
work again.
Yeah, no, that's no fun.
That is no fun. But it is interesting that coming out of that, one of the things they said was that given how far it's come in 2 to 3 years, publicly available, mass produced, whatever, that this isn't going to be an issue in 10 years. It's not. It's going to...
No, it's going to be an automatism, probably. That's absolutely true.
How do you even predict what's going to happen in 10 years when you're moving this fast?
I have no idea. I mean, and it's also increasingly accelerating, right?
Yeah.
So every time that you want to, it's every time you look forward to something, then predict maybe
You
this takes
blink.
five years, but basically a year later, it's already happened.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's going to take people smarter than me to try to predict what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years. Let's be honest.
So one of the things that Katie Kwan also said is she had somebody who inspired her who said, well, I want to make a fully 3D printed heart to be able to do heart surgery,
Right.
even if there is no donor available. And the doctor who said that realized that this would be something that might take him up to 30 years of his life to do that, but it was a cause worth fighting for the rest of his career.
Right.
And for her, it is making sure that robots interact more human-like. And that is
Right.
now her mission in life. Do you feel where I'm going to?
Kinda, sorta.
What would be your big thing?
What is my mission in life? What's my legacy? I have never, ever thought about that. I guess the one thing that I enjoy doing is just making sure that people understand some of these very complex topics. Of course, privacy is my passion, but understand these very complex topics to where they can prevent themselves or their loved ones or harming an innocent person from something bad happening because of the data. And you sit there and go, but what harm could actually happen? There are so many harms we can't even think about. But even if the harm is just that someone's personal data is out there in a way that they would not want people to know that about them, it doesn't matter if the person who acquired it's not going to do a darn thing with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that it was intensely private and it was out there, and the technologies that take away the choice from us. I mean, as I think I've said before, my teenage daughters were, why do you write these privacy notices when no one reads them? Well, I have to tell them what's happening. How do I tell them without telling them? I don't know of a better way. So that would be my legacy, is somehow find a way that people can understand and ingest these very complex interactions in a way that they can protect themselves and others. I don't know how to boil that down any simpler, right? How would I act on that? How would it be practical? Because I love innovation. I mean, that's the thing. I love people innovating. I think we should be able to use data, but you should use data that you're allowed to use.
Well, and it all starts with permissions and consents and licenses
Yeah.
to actually train those models.
What's yours?
I'm not completely sure.
See, how do we explain this?
I don't think I have this one conviction where I say, this is what I want to do for the next 30 years.
Right.
I mean, I came into privacy, as we all did in our generation, as a sheer coincidence.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about that before. And when I joined the Dutch Data Protection Authority in 2009, I thought, well, this is something I'll do for 2 or 3 years, and then I go do something else.
And you found out that
Because
you were in love
privacy is
with
not
it.
something that I will do for the rest of my life. I don't see myself as the specialist of a very niche topic that nobody really cares about. And here I am. It's
And here you
2025,
are.
and I guess I have become that niche expert. But suddenly it is a topic that a lot more people care about.
Yeah. There
Um,
are 90,000 members of
Yes.
IAPP now. who
I
made that
remember the
this
announcement of
morning.
50,000 a
I do
couple of
too.
years ago.
I remember the announcement of 15,000
Yeah, that's before my time.
and 5. I remember okay, we're going to quit going back there because,
It's 25 years, right? This year. It's
Now,
25
to
years
be
of
honest,
IAPP.
they started in the year 2000. I was not a member of them in the year 2000. I was in law school from 2001 through 4. So I was not a member of them in the year 2000, but it wasn't too far long after that. But how many of us have thought, wow, this is a career choice. This is what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah, no, that said, I have not. And that also means that I do not have that bigger plan of what am I going to do for the next 30 years.
Right.
And this is what I want to achieve. I think if I think about it a bit more, one of the things that I really want to do is make sure that people are protected regardless,
Yeah.
even despite themselves.
Right.
Because data protection, privacy are fundamental rights. They are
Well, and
inherent human rights, and
It
somebody
shouldn't
needs
be
to
on
care
the
about them.
individual to do it. The
No.
individual has no insight or knowledge or understanding of what these companies and entities are doing with their
No,
data and
but
what kind of
it's-
data there is.
It also shouldn't be on the companies to figure it all out themselves.
Right.
Um,
It's got to be a better way.
There got to be a better way, and that also means that companies need more help in understanding the do's and don'ts, in
Yeah.
understanding what is a right approach, a positive approach to privacy and data protection
Yeah.
compliance, to AI compliance, to deal with this whole set of digital laws that we are facing all around the world, not just in Europe.
Yeah.
And maybe if I have one mission in life is make that easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's also in part what we've been doing for the past 5.5
We've been
years
trying. We've been
on
trying.
the podcast and during the webinars we did, explaining to people how these laws work in practice and how
Yeah.
things can come together.
It is. And I'm going to pick up on one thing you said about positive. How can you put it in a positive light? So I rarely talk about things that are actually happening at work because I don't like talking about current employers. But something happened the other day that I think has been missing at our work. We, of course, have the compliance functions that need to speak into projects that are being developed. And the CIO said that he is starting a project audit board to make sure the projects are getting the requirements, that they're going through the governance gates. And I'm like, y'all are doing this all wrong. It's not the project audit board, it's the technology innovation pathway. This is how you innovate. We're the ones that have the road signs. We're the ones that can clear the bumps out of the way. We're the ones that can show you what direction to go. We love the innovation. Quit looking at it as negative.
Mm-hmm.
Gateways and governance gates and all of that is a very negative spin. Look at it from the positive side that this is how we innovate.
So again, from blocker to enabler.
Right. And I tell them, I'm not the office of no N-O. We're the office of no K-N-O-W. You know, we know how you can legally move forward. And nobody in any company, well, okay, not nobody. Most people in companies don't set out to break the law. This isn't something we can expect them to know, or there wouldn't be a career field for us.
No, that's also true. And yes, I agree. In general, most organizations would not be out there willing to break the law.
Right. We can't say all because, you know, that's what happens when you use absolutes.
Yeah, and if you see also, let me rephrase that. So not all companies are out to break the law, but some make deliberate choices that
Yes.
are breaking the law.
Based on their risk
Um,
appetite and everything. Yeah.
Exactly. And or because they don't understand or don't want to understand the legislation. And just today, April 23rd, the European Commission imposed their first fines under the EU Digital Markets Act. 500 million euro to Apple, 200 million euro to Meta.
Wow.
Those are not, well,
Small.
I mean, there are serious fines, but they are not massive in terms of what they could have imposed.
Nowhere near the 4% of global revenue.
No, DMA is even 6%.
Oh, that's right. It goes up another 2.
So it goes up. But Apple has received the fines because it wants users to conclude subscriptions via the App Store instead of the cheaper way outside. And they don't point people to that option.
To the cheaper way.
It's the ease of use that, of course, if you do it in the App Store, so it takes more time to do it elsewhere. But if it's 30% cheaper, then people should be pointed in that direction. And the Meta fine is actually more interesting because that relates to Pay or OK.
Yeah, which is the one we've been dying to see come out.
Well, there is more on Pay or OK that we want to see. And Meta is starting, or was starting last week, with a similar show trick where they say, well, we are now going to use Meta AI in Europe. And if you use any of our services, well, Facebook or Instagram, not WhatsApp, at least not yet, AI will be enabled by default and you have an opt-out if you don't want your data to be trained. And they've promised for now, at least, that they will respect all opt-outs without discussion. So it's automatically granted. But indeed, let's see what happens. But I still don't understand how they come to think that they have a legal basis for this, other than they seem to rely upon legitimate interest with offering opt-outs, but this is a change of purpose of data that was already collected.
Yeah.
Going forward, yes, you may be able to rely upon a legitimate interest and say, people, you are allowed to opt out.
Yeah.
But for historical data,
historical
data was never collected for the training of AI.
Yeah.
That was never a purpose. That was never communicated to a user. So to be able then to rely on that, you need to go through that compatible use assessment.
Yeah. And this is not a compatible use.
I would not say this is a compatible use. No. I mean, if I posted something in the past on my Facebook page to share with my friends, that doesn't mean that I want to have that data used 20 years later to train an AI model.
Right. Oh.
So that is going to be the next discussion that Meta will be facing, I guess, both from data protection authorities, but now also from the European Commission.
Yeah.
Unfair and deceptive practices.
That is true. And that was part of what came up in the cybersecurity session as well, is how much regulators rely on the unfair and deceptive practices. Of course, there's apparently one state that does not have an unfair. They only have deceptive.
Okay.
But there's other states that have unfair, deceptive, and
negligent,
harmful, or abusive.
Okay.
Abusive, which I don't think they define what abusive is. But this is what the regulators are relying on. And it was a very interesting point to think that someone, and I don't remember who, Chatham House Rules, that said that your contracts with your clients that say that you will comply with all laws, all data protection laws, whatever, cannot be used as an action by regulators, but can be used to support the point that you are holding out that you are fully compliant with all laws. And I'm sitting there going, so that gives me a reason. I do strike all from contracts, but of course the clients like to put them back. And this is every company I've ever worked for. They like to put them back because they want you to comply with all. Well, think of how many laws are out there. How could you possibly comply with all of them?
Especially when many of those laws are contradictory.
Right. And now it at least gives us, another reason to be able to push back on and say, no, actually, we're going to comply with the ones that we know about and that apply with the data. And of course, you're supposed to know about everything that would apply to you, but I don't like the word all. So y'all think about that too in your contract negotiations.
No, but how would you ever comply with all in a conflict of law situation?
Right. And none of the privacy laws or data protection conflict against each other.
Well, maybe in general principle-based, no. But if you look at the USA Patriot Act and the US Cloud Act and the subpoena power of the US authorities to obtain data from companies, even if it's hosted outside of the United States, and then compare it to data transfer requirements in China, in India, in Japan, in Singapore, in the European Union, that says you cannot export without a proper legal basis.
Right.
You have a clash and you cannot comply with both of them at the same time.
y'all need to pay attention to the Department of Justice rules about the mass export of sensitive data, which, by the way, mass export is 1,000 records.
Okay, that doesn't sound
That's
like
not mass.
And sensitive includes financials, right?
Yes,
in the
includes
US.
financials in the U.S. And so there's a lot of things you have to do. This was passed this month, last month, goes into effect in July, I believe it is. So make sure y'all are paying attention to that as well. Might not apply to all of y'all, but now we're really starting to get into supply chain.
But tell me more, because this is relevant.
This is against governments that might have a nation state action, and they come and they buy data from data brokers. It doesn't have to be data brokers. They could buy any. So why would China or Iran or North Korea or Russia go into a nation state hacking situation when they could just go buy the data from someone? And so now the Department of Justice is saying, no, you cannot sell or give away or rent or lease this data without going through certain loopholes and making sure that you're not doing business with someone you shouldn't. But they said this also means that you need to check with your vendors, because export, as always, does not necessarily mean printing out the data or putting it on a CD or DVD or whatever the heck you used to do, USB, and physically carrying it across. This could be someone living in that country that has access to the data. And
so would this also apply intra-company?
It should. Yes, that's the thing. It should. Well, it depends.
So if you're a European company
depends.
with 1,000 employees in the US and that data is shipped back to headquarters?
Yeah, you need to look at that transfer of data and make sure that it complies with the law. Now, there are, caveats as to what it applies to and what it doesn't apply to, but they also said you got to pay attention to your vendors. Do your vendors have employees in those countries? And there's very specific countries listed. Do your vendors have employees in that country, or do they have vendors? So fourth parties, fifth parties, sixth parties. You need to follow the data lineage. Do they have people in those countries at some point that have access to this data? And so if y'all don't have that on your radar,
and that's
it's
probably
not
always the case with sub-processors and sub-processors.
Because who knows? So I was like, wow, does this come out anywhere to be able to say who's the ultimate owner of a company? So you'd have to start figuring that out as well, because just because they're an Inc. or a corporation or LLC doesn't mean they're not owned by someone. So you have to start checking the ownership and you have to start checking who their vendors are and follow the trail down. It's not a very difficult read. It's pretty short. But, take 15 minutes and go read over it and make sure that you don't have any data or anything that would apply to that.
But basically, this means that the U.S., as of this summer, is introducing data transfer restrictions.
Yes.
Because 1,000 records is
not a lot.
It's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
In my book, that doesn't qualify as a massive data transfer.
Nope, it doesn't. And I think that might be why a lot of people have kind of discounted it, or they think it's a data brokerage. They think it only applies to data brokers. It doesn't. So that's the two things. So if you've heard anything about it and you're like, oh, well, I don't mass export data without knowing mass is 1,000. And I also, I'm not a data broker. It's not data brokers. It may have originated from that concern, but that's not the way that it's written. So you need to pay attention to things that you may have discounted. Like I said, it's not a long read. There's probably information out there that you can Google from different law firms or whatever if you really don't want to go read the rule itself. But pay attention to that. I think that's one that has snuck up on people.
Well, it snuck up on me.
Yeah, it snuck up on me, let's be honest.
I'm trying to pay attention on what's happening in the industry. So you heard it here.
You heard it here.
This is something to pay attention to.
Well, and that's the other thing. Paul and I were just talking earlier with people saying, well, how do you keep up with what's going on in the industry? And that's one thing Paul and I like about the podcasting is it literally forces us to stay current. We have data feeds coming in from all kinds of sources. Trust me, y'all, our fans often post stories or send us snippets as well to give us a sneak look. And so that's one way. But we were making the point that if you're someone that's just going to come in to do your work, head down, nose down, just getting the work done, you're going to be out of date within 3 months. Easily, because you're not keeping up with what's going on. So you have to force yourself to get involved. And yes, listening to our podcast is something that you can rely on to bring you the current news. But we darn sure don't think that we're everything in the current news.
No, and just for the record, stressing that we do not offer legal advice and,
We do
and
not.
yada, yada, yada.
Yada,
but,
yada, yada. We don't do that.
No, we try to share what we know and give you the information to the best of our understanding
Yeah.
and what we can find. But there's also only so much we can talk about in the 35 minutes per episode.
Yes,
that
because we
have.
have to keep it down. And I know that we're hitting about 30 minutes now, but I have to give a shout out that in one of the sessions, I took a picture of my boots and I posted it to LinkedIn. I'm like, I'm here. Look for the P because I'm wearing fuchsia basically from head to toe. We actually had someone come up to us and said, I'm a fan. I hear you have stickers. I saw your boots.
It's true.
Now, if Paul was wearing the boots, more people might pay attention.
Yeah, maybe next time.
Maybe next time. We'll have to plan
Probably
for
not.
that one. Good note to end on.
That was Serious Privacy.
This wraps up our podcast for this week. Please do share the episode with your friends and colleagues because we love to get more listeners. And join the conversation on LinkedIn or on Blue Sky. You'll find us under Serious Privacy on both platforms. You'll find Kay as Heart of Privacy, Ralph as IGR O'Brien, and myself as Europol B. Until next week, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
If you're a data protection or privacy professional, you already know the pressure. Non-stop regulatory change, AI oversight, internal demands, and the expectation to somehow stay ahead of it all. And the old patchwork of tools just isn't cutting it anymore.
No, that's why TrustArc created a modern privacy management platform powered by Arc Intelligence. The TrustArc platform brings your workflows, evidence, research, tasks, and applications all together in one unified and intelligent workspace so you don't waste time digging, clicking, or context switching.
With Ask Arc, your privacy assistant, you can ask plain language questions about laws, jurisdictions, or even your own program data and get credible, cited answers based on NIMBY research and more than 1,000 global laws. It's explainable, transparent, and purpose-built for data protection and privacy.
So if you need to add a vendor, create a cookie banner, or start an assessment, quick actions take formally complex tasks, turn them into bite-sized guided workflows to save you time.
It's a platform that thinks like you, works like you, and helps you move faster with confidence, whether you're a seasoned DPO or you're just getting started.
See how modern privacy gets done. Explore Arc at trustarc.com/serious-privacy. That's trustarc.com/serious-privacy.